I was 34 years old when I discovered the truth my wife, Jessica Miller, had been hiding for 8 months. A truth so calculated, so strategic, that the world's most sophisticated spy couldn't have planned it better. And when that truth finally reached me, through a visual confirmation at an exclusive island resort, everything changed. I, David Miller, an investment analyst, had meticulously planned the surprise. Jessica, a high-end real estate broker, was supposedly at a critical corporate retreat at the Azure Key Retreat, one of the most exclusive, secluded resorts in the Caribbean. She had emphasized how crucial this trip was for securing a massive deal, how she needed to be focused, and how I absolutely could not disturb her. But I missed her. We had been married for 12 years, and I thought a grand, romantic gesture was exactly what our slightly strained relationship needed.
I booked a last-minute flight, chartered a small seaplane to the island, and told the resort staff I was there to deliver a crucial document to Mrs. Miller personally, ensuring absolute discretion. My heart was pounding with excitement as I was escorted through the immaculate grounds toward the private penthouse suite she was occupying. I pictured her face, the initial shock, followed by that wide, joyful smile. I imagined the moment I'd tell her I'd cleared my schedule for 3 days just to be with her. I reached the suite, pausing just outside the glass doors leading to the immense private balcony. I took a deep breath, ready to knock, when I saw them. Jessica wasn't sitting at a table reviewing contracts or discussing market trends. She was leaning back against the pristine white railing, dressed in a silk robe, locked in a passionate, undeniably intimate embrace.
Her partner was a man whose face was instantly recognizable globally, Elias Thorne, the notorious tech and finance trillionaire. The air left my lungs in a single, silent rush. It wasn't just the betrayal, it was the identity of the man. Elias Thorne didn't date. He acquired, he invested, he moved markets. This wasn't a drunken mistake or a fling with a colleague. This was a strategic alliance. Jessica, the woman I thought I knew, was kissing a trillionaire on the balcony of a penthouse suite that cost more per night than I made in 2 weeks, all while I thought she was fighting for a listing commission. The shift from loving husband to cold, calculating analyst was instant and absolute. The visual shock was devastating, but the realization of the financial implication was paralyzing. I didn't move.
I simply observed, cataloging the scene, realizing the full extent of the deception had yet to be uncovered. But I knew, with chilling certainty, that this was not infidelity. This was a calculated financial maneuver. The rage was a secondary emotion. The primary one was a cold, analytical dread. I had just witnessed the destruction of my marriage, but the sight of Elias Thorne, whose net worth eclipsed entire countries, confirmed that this wasn't about love or sex. This was about money, and Jessica was positioning herself for a maximum payout. I backed away from the glass doors, moving silently and swiftly, my analyst training kicking in. Document, strategize, execute. I didn't need to hear their conversation. The visual evidence was irrefutable. I checked my surroundings, ensuring no resort staff or cameras had seen me near the penthouse suite. The expense alone of this corporate retreat had always been a nagging detail I had suppressed. Jessica claimed her firm covered the cost, but the exclusivity of the Azure Key and the sheer luxury of that specific penthouse now screamed of Thorne's involvement. This realization immediately connected to a series of recent, suspicious events I had dismissed as paranoia. Jessica had, over the last few months, become intensely interested in the specifics of my retirement funds, particularly my 401k structure and the vesting schedule for my largest stock options. She had also insisted, quite forcefully, that we needed to file our last tax returns separately, citing advice from her new financial consultant. At the time, I attributed it to her high-powered, aggressive nature. Now I saw the pattern. She was gathering intelligence for a financial strike.
Connecting Thorne's immense wealth to Jessica's aggressive ambition confirmed it. She wasn't just cheating, she was leveraging a relationship with a high-net-worth individual to maximize her position in a premeditated divorce. She was building a financial case against me using Thorne's resources and expertise. I had to get off the island, and I had to do it without leaving a trace. If she knew I had been there, she would immediately shift her strategy and potentially hide critical assets. I paid the seaplane pilot in cash, insisting he erase the log of my arrival. I checked out of the resort lobby using a different name and cash, claiming I had arrived on the yacht of a friend and was leaving early. I was just David Miller, investment analyst, executing a strategic retreat.
I was back on the mainland within 4 hours, carrying the weight of my ruined marriage and the cold determination to fight back. I resolved to maintain the facade of the loving, unsuspecting husband until my legal case was impenetrable. I knew Thorne's lawyers would be merciless, which meant I had to be flawless. That moment when you know something's off but can't prove it yet, or when you can prove it but have to act like you don't, that's pure torture. If you've ever had to suppress that gut feeling and act strategically, hit subscribe right now. What I discovered next changed everything about how I viewed trust and betrayal. The moment I landed back in the States, I bypassed my empty house and drove straight to the office of Laura Vance. She was the one name that repeatedly came up in my research.
A specialized divorce attorney known for high asset protection and successfully countering premeditated financial exit strategies. I knew I couldn't trust a general practitioner. I needed a specialist who understood the cold, calculated nature of what I was facing. Laura Vance, sharp and clinical, listened without interruption as I recounted the Azure Key incident, the identity of Elias Thorne, and Jessica's recent financial inquiries. When I finished, she simply nodded. Mr. Miller, your wife's actions, the specific financial questions, the separate tax filings, the liaising with a figure like Thorne, they align perfectly with a premeditated financial exit strategy. She is attempting to maximize the settlement by establishing a timeline favorable to her, likely anticipating a significant bonus or asset maturity on your end.
Her confirmation, delivered so matter-of-factly, solidified my resolve. This wasn't a crime of passion. It was economic opportunism. Laura immediately advised me on securing my personal devices, changing passwords, and crucially, installing basic, legally compliant monitoring software on the shared home computer. We need irrefutable digital evidence of her planning, not just the physical evidence of the affair, she instructed. The affair is leverage. The financial planning is what wins the case. That night, pretending to be on an extended business trip, I remotely accessed the home computer. The monitoring software quickly paid dividends.
I found emails showing Jessica had booked the Azure Key penthouse suite not under her corporate account, but under a shell company registered in the Cayman Islands, a company that financial databases confirmed was linked directly to Elias Thorne's private equity holdings. This wasn't a corporate retreat. It was Thorne's private invitation, paid for by his hidden funds. The deception was complete. Laura Vance outlined the strategy. I must maintain the facade of the happy, unsuspecting husband. Any suspicion on Jessica's part would lead her to delete files, change accounts, or accelerate her filing timeline. My job was to be patient, charming, and utterly silent while building a comprehensive financial and visual case.
I spent the next week living a double life, answering Jessica's texts about her hard work and jet lag with loving support, while spending every spare hour meticulously documenting our shared assets and her suspicious communications. The investigative tension was immense. Most people would have exploded right there, demanding answers and throwing things. If you respect the strategic, quiet approach, the one that wins in the end, tap that like button. It confirms that strategy beats emotion every time. The real turning point came 2 weeks after my return, when I finally cracked the encrypted folder on Jessica's home office cloud drive. I was hunting for specific financial records, but what I found was far more devastating than a bank statement. It was a file labeled Project Phoenix.
Inside, there wasn't just correspondence with Thorne, which was now highly guarded and cryptic, but a series of spreadsheets and handwritten notes, meticulously photographed and digitized. These notes detailed a chilling, comprehensive timeline. The key discovery was the explicit mention of our prenuptial agreement, PNA, expiry date, 9 months away. The notes calculated the exact date on which the PNA would expire, making all my premarital assets vulnerable to division. But it went deeper.
the timeline for filing divorce was set for exactly 4 weeks after the P&A expired, and critically, 2 weeks after my annual performance bonus was scheduled to deposit. The notes explicitly stated, maximize timing based on DM's Q4 vesting and P&A termination. Need Thorne's assistance in asset valuation and maintaining deniability. It confirmed everything.
This was not a betrayal that happened spontaneously. Jessica had been planning this for months, perhaps since she met Thorne, calculating the precise moment to strike to maximize her financial gain, using the P&A expiration and my bonus cycle as her targets. She wasn't just cheating, she was manipulating our life, down to the dollar amount she expected to walk away with. I felt a coldness wash over me that wasn't rage, but pure, icy determination. My worst fears were confirmed. The marriage was a timeline, and I was the mark. I immediately printed the file, secured the digital copies, and sent everything to Laura Vance. Laura called me back within the hour, her voice tight with professional excitement. David, this is irrefutable. We have the evidence to argue premeditation, calculated deceit, and financial opportunism.
This changes the entire dynamic of asset division and, crucially, negates any possibility of spousal support based on grounds of infidelity on her part being the catalyst. We file now, before she gets the chance to execute her timeline. The decision was made. I would build a comprehensive case before filing, ensuring every detail was covered, every asset protected. I was no longer fighting a wife. I was dismantling a corporate hostile takeover attempt. Comment below, have you ever discovered something that changed how you saw someone completely? That awful clarity is hard to handle. With the evidence of Project Phoenix secured, the planning phase became a high-stakes corporate maneuver. Laura Vance and I met daily, moving with the precision of a surgical strike team. The goal now, David, Laura explained, is to preempt her.
She is operating under the assumption that she has 9 months of free play. We need to file within 48 hours of her return before she can even check her emails or speak to her own legal counsel. Laura instructed me to quietly and legally transfer key liquid assets, those not inextricably linked to the marital home, into protected, separate accounts. We prepared documentation to freeze all joint checking and investment accounts the moment the papers were served, ensuring she couldn't strip them clean upon realizing the game was up. We developed the reveal strategy. I wouldn't confront her verbally. The papers would do the talking. The process server would deliver the dissolution petition, which would be accompanied by a comprehensive evidence binder.
This binder would contain the photos of her and Thorne at the Azure Key, visual proof of infidelity, deception, and, most critically, the Project Phoenix notes, irrefutable proof of calculated financial manipulation. This simultaneous delivery was designed to negate any claim she might make that I was the cause of the divorce or that I was blindsided. While Laura prepared the legal filings, I meticulously organized every financial statement, tax return, and communication log. I created a timeline of her suspicious financial inquiries, cross-referenced with the dates she was communicating with Thorne. The evidence binder was thick, cold, and utterly convincing. To complete the trap, I purchased a small, nondescript recording device.
I needed to capture her casual lies upon her return, adding another layer of irrefutable evidence that she maintained the facade of the corporate retreat even after arriving home. This wasn't just about winning. It was about ensuring she faced the consequences of her calculated deception. The tension of maintaining the facade was almost unbearable. I had to text her, asking about her deals and expressing how much I missed her, knowing that every word was a lie protecting my strategy. I had to be the loving husband, the unsuspecting target, until the clock struck 0. If you want more deep dive stories about people who turned the tables on betrayal using strategic planning and meticulous evidence gathering, the membership gives you access to content that goes even further into these precise methodologies. The day Jessica was due back felt like the longest day of my life.
The divorce papers, signed and notarized, were sitting in Laura Vance's office, ready to be served the next morning. My evidence binder was locked in my safe deposit box, and the joint accounts were primed for freezing. Jessica arrived home late afternoon, tanned, relaxed, and radiating confidence. She breezed through the door, kissed me lightly, and immediately launched into her rehearsed narrative. "Oh, David, I'm exhausted. That retreat was brutal, but I think the deal is solid," she said, dropping her designer luggage in the entryway. "So many late nights reviewing clauses. I barely saw the beach." I played my part perfectly. I poured her a glass of wine, asked gentle, leading questions about the resort, and listened as she confidently spouted lie after lie about the conference rooms, the dull presentations, and the sheer volume of work.
The small recording device, discreetly placed in the kitchen, captured every single word, every casual, calculated deception. "Did you get any time to relax at all?" I asked, looking genuinely concerned. "Maybe one evening," she sighed dramatically. "We had a dinner on the water, but honestly, I think I was asleep by 9. Jet lag, you know." The truth, of course, was that she had been passionately kissing Elias Thorne on a private balcony, orchestrating my financial ruin. But I smiled, nodded, and offered her a massage, maintaining the role of the devoted husband. That night, sleeping alone in the guest room, I claimed I had a critical early morning meeting. I felt completely detached. I was no longer married to Jessica. I was merely cohabiting with the target of my strategic defense. The calm before the storm was absolute. I knew I had successfully preempted her maneuver.
The following morning, she would wake up to the full realization that her 9 months of careful planning had been reduced to a single devastating hour. Laura Vance confirmed the exact time the process server would arrive, 9 a.m. sharp. My focus was on execution, not emotion. I had won the battle before the first shot was fired. I've pinned something in the first comment that might help if you're navigating a difficult relationship situation and need to protect yourself legally. It's about ensuring you're always prepared. The morning of the execution was quiet. I was dressed for work, sipping coffee, when the doorbell rang precisely at 9 a.m. Jessica, still in her silk robe, answered it, expecting a delivery or perhaps a neighbor. The process server was polite, professional, and efficient. "Jessica Miller, you've been served." Jessica looked confused, then annoyed.
She accepted the thick packet, which contained the dissolution petition and the evidence binder. She glanced at the cover page, saw my name, and laughed, a high, brittle sound. "David, what is this? A joke? Did you hire a clown to deliver a prank?" I stood up, putting my coffee mug down slowly. My voice was low, steady, and utterly devoid of emotion. "It's not a joke, Jessica. It's the divorce petition. I filed first." She stopped laughing. Her eyes narrowed as she flipped through the legal document, but her complete composure shattered when she reached the evidence binder. She flipped past the index and landed on the first photograph, the high-resolution image of her and Elias Thorne, intertwined, on the balcony of the Azure Key penthouse. The color drained from her face, leaving her skin a sickening pale white.
She looked up at me, panic replacing the calculated confidence I had known for years. How did you get this?" she stammered, flipping frantically to the next section, the Project Phoenix notes, detailing the P&A expiry, the bonus cycle, and Thorne's assistance. "I was never on a business trip, Jessica," I stated, my voice cutting through the silence. "I was at the resort. I saw you. And when I realized this wasn't an affair, but a calculated financial maneuver designed to steal my retirement funds after the P&A expired, I hired Laura Vance. You've been planning this for months, but I filed first. The joint accounts are frozen. Your legal claim to my assets, based on your premeditated intent, is now severely compromised." She tried to regain control, her high-powered realtor persona kicking in. "You have no proof I was planning anything. This is slander. I'll call my lawyer."
"You don't have a lawyer yet, Jessica. You were waiting 9 months." "I do," I corrected. "And as for proof, read the notes. They are dated. They detail your timeline based on my bonus and the P&A expiry. We also have the recordings of your casual lies yesterday about the corporate retreat. Thorne, by the way, has already distanced himself. His legal team was notified last night. He won't protect you." Jessica grabbed her phone, her hands shaking violently, trying to call Elias Thorne. The call went straight to voicemail. She tried her contacts, but the legal trap was airtight. She was exposed, alone, and her entire strategic plan had collapsed in under 5 minutes.
That feeling when the truth finally comes out and the calculated malice of a betrayer is exposed? If this story has given you anything, even just validation that strategic defense is possible, a super thanks means the world and keeps these stories coming. The aftermath of the revelation was swift and devastating for Jessica. Her calculated maneuver had failed spectacularly because I had acted strategically, not emotionally. Laura Vance was ruthless. Using the Project Phoenix notes as irrefutable proof of premeditation and financial opportunism, she argued successfully that Jessica's actions constituted a breach of marital duties aimed solely at financial gain. This evidence was critical in securing a quick, favorable settlement. We protected my 401k entirely, and because we filed first and demonstrated her clear intent to wait until the P&A expired, Jessica received significantly less than she had planned for, a fraction of the windfall she had meticulously calculated. The strategic advantage she sought was completely negated. Professionally, the consequences were immediate. Jessica was a high-end real estate broker, relying on trust and discretion. When the news of her calculating divorce attempt, tied directly to the infamous Elias Thorne, leaked among her wealthy clientele, which Thorne's team subtly ensured happened to protect his own reputation, her credibility evaporated. High net worth clients don't tolerate instability or financial opportunism, especially when it involves a trillionaire who publicly abandoned her. She lost 2 major listings within a week of the filing.
Elias Thorne's involvement vanished overnight. His legal team issued a curt public statement denying any financial or long-term personal relationship with Jessica Miller, confirming he was completely distancing himself from the situation. She was left without her wealthy benefactor, without her planned settlement, and with a severely damaged career. Jessica was forced to move out of the marital home within 30 days, facing the reality of her failed scheme. She had spent months planning a financial victory, only to suffer a comprehensive defeat because she underestimated my resolve and my ability to analyze and counter her strategy. I realized that my training as an investment analyst, spotting risk, mitigating damage, and executing a counter-trade had saved my financial life. Everything about documentation, evidence gathering, and legal protection is covered in what I've pinned in the comments. Worth checking out if you face similar issues. 6 months later, the divorce was finalized, and the air was finally clear. The peace I felt was profound, built on the foundation of financial security I had fought so hard to protect. I looked back at the man who had flown to the Azure Key, the one filled with naive love, and realized how much I had changed. I sold a marital home, the house that symbolized Jessica's materialistic influence and my blindness, and moved into a smaller, simpler apartment in the city. It symbolized a fresh start, free from the need to impress or adhere to a false image of success. The recovery wasn't just financial, it was personal.
I had to acknowledge the pain, but I credited my survival entirely to trusting my analyst instincts over my emotional heart. Had I confronted her, had I acted on rage, she would have had time to destroy the evidence, liquidate assets, and preempt my case. Instead, I used cold strategic planning to dismantle her calculated malice. I started dating again, tentatively, meeting someone whose primary virtue was transparency, a stark and necessary contrast to the deception that had defined my previous marriage. I learned that true strength isn't found in avoiding pain, but in confronting betrayal with intelligence and documentation. I had taken control of my narrative, refusing to be the victim in her planned exit strategy. The growth gained from the experience was immense. I learned that you must always be prepared to defend what is yours, even against the person you trust most.
Stories like this, of people who survived devastating betrayal and came out stronger, smarter, and financially secure, they matter. If this one mattered to you, if it gave you any sense of validation or clarity, a super thanks keeps them coming. My journey taught me the ultimate truth about betrayal. Never let emotion dictate strategy when facing calculated malice. When someone you love plans to hurt you financially and emotionally, you must respond with the cold precision of a business transaction. The power of the evidence was everything. The photo of Jessica and Thorne proved the deception, but the Project Phoenix notes proved the intent. It was the documented timeline, the financial calculation tied to the P&A and my bonus, that turned the tide from victor to victor. Documentation is not just paper. It is power.
I am David Miller, the investment analyst who was almost financially ruined by a cold, calculated plot. But I fought back, using the very skills she thought I would abandon in my heartbreak. I protected my future, my 401k, and my peace. My advice to anyone facing doubt is simple. Trust your instincts, gather irrefutable evidence, and always have a plan B for your financial independence. I am finally free. I am financially secure. And I reclaimed my life from the wreckage of a calculated betrayal.